Good afternoon, 7th graders. Mr. Brennan here going through your NRG Flow notes. So we've been talking about ecosystems and how I want to address how that energy flows from one level to the next and from one organism to the next. We need to understand that all of our energy in an ecosystem originates from the sun. How this happens is solar energy allows for photosynthesis. That photosynthesis is that chemical reaction where it becomes energy for the plants. So solar energy becomes chemical energy, which we know is glucose. And then chemical energy becomes mechanical, that movement or potential to stored as fat, or radiant energy given off as heat. All of the energy is passed through living organisms via food chains or food webs. That's the path that all of that energy takes. The first organism that we have in an ecosystem is an autotroph. Auto, you look at that prefix, auto meaning self, trophs meaning feeding, so they're self-feeding. So they're able to feed themselves using photosynthesis. They don't need anything else other than the sun to help that process along. Or chemiostasis, which is using chemicals, but most are using the light. Producers, what these are known as, these are plants. Those use energy from the sun to convert non-living chemical nutrients into living tissue and high energy molecules of sugar and carbohydrates. That is where the sun's energy is stored. So plants will take that energy and that converts sugar. There's a chemical process that's taking place that is producing the energy that those plants need. We also then have heterotrophs. These organisms need others for their energy. So they feed on them. When we look at identifying what type of heterotroph it is, the first one is we have primary consumers. Those are only eating plants. They're herbivores. They're right above the producers. Okay. Then we have our secondary, our tertiary, and our quaternary consumers. These are either going to be omnivores, eating plants and or animals, or carnivores that eat animal flesh primarily. We have different trophic levels. Troph means to feed. Trophic levels are feeding levels in food chains or food webs. So we have autotrophs, like we talked about, which are self-feeding. Those are producers. Our first level of heterotrophs, which are herbivores and omnivores, are kind of right above the autotrophs. And then we have the second order, which are omnivores or carnivores. So the herbivores and omnivores are plant eaters or plant and meat eaters. Second level is we are plant and animal eaters, or just strictly flesh-eating ones, is in the carnivores. Their third or fourth or heterotrophs are omnivores or carnivores. So we do have some limits within our food chains. Trophic levels are limited in the natural ecosystems. So on average, only 10% of the amount of energy is transferred from one level to the next. 10% of the overall available energy in one trophic level is passed to the next one. So there's not much that's actually being passed on as far as and in terms of the amount of energy that is shared. Okay, you can see this is an example of a food chain. Okay, that includes showing where the energy from the sun produces food for the rabbit, which is a primary consumer, which then produces food for the wolf, which is a secondary consumer, and then we also have decomposers that will break down all of those. Okay, the green arrow is showing which is passing nutrients from one to the next, and then Heat is also a byproduct of that, so they're all giving off heat in some fashion. Okay, this chart is just showing you the percentage from the original start to the very end. The quaternary consumer, that's the top dog. That's the one that nobody messes with. So that is 1/100th% of energy from the start. Okay, goes down by 10% each time. Kind of follow that. So why is so little energy passed on? It takes or costs energy to live. So example, your metabolism, tissue repair or growth or movement, it takes energy to do that. Not all the energy in food can be used by the eater. So there's some forms that they just can't use. So example, decomposers still thrive on breaking down and obtaining energy from animal and plant waste and dead tissue. I know that may sound gross, but that's where they get their energy from. Microbes and bacteria, earthworms, scuds, beetles, all eat dead things and feces. That's poop. If you compost at your house, you will watch this happen all the time. So that's those things that are breaking that down, taking that last little bit of energy out of those dead and decaying and breaking down those organisms and plants. Okay, what do we know? The sun provides energy. Producers make energy from the sun. Those are plants. We have consumers. Those are organisms that eat something else. Example, animals, like you or me. And then we have decomposers, which return energy to the environment. That's a fungus or bacteria. You will have access to these notes, so hopefully that will help you fill out your guided notes, which looks like this. Sorry, my screen went a little small, but you can kind of fill that out as you go on this one. If you just want to type them below there, you can certainly do that. But all that information is right in your notes. Hopefully that helps you complete this part of the activity. Thank you.